Hello and welcome to the big picture. President Pratibha Patil today addressed a joint session of the Parliament. This is a customary address of the President during the first session of a new year. Incidentally, this is also her last address to the Parliament because she will be retiring in August. So what did this President's address have which the government is offering to the country? Are there any key issues which will make major difference to this country? To discuss all this, I have with me here today Mr. A.Sampath, a CPIM MP from the Lok Sabha, also Dr. Sanjay Jaiswal, a BJP MP from Lok Sabha, and will be joined soon by Mr. K.S.Rao of the Congress party, who is also a member of the Lok Sabha. And along with them in the studio is Smita Gupta, Deputy Editor of the Hindu. Welcome to all of you. Let me first go to Mr. Sampath. You have been, this is the fourth President's address. This is supposed to be, the last year before which, the country will go into an election mode, actually. So, do you think that in this address, which, President delivers it, but it's a government's intention of what it wants to do in the coming year. Do you think the government is clear about its intentions?
No, sir. I don't believe that the government is clear in its intentions. Anyway, Rashtrapati ji's speech to the joint session of this parliament, it doesn't address the real problems. It doesn't take the gravity of the problems. You see, the main problem this country now faces, the number one problem is the price rise.
Right.
What is the reason behind this price rise? The main reason is it is a state-sponsored inflation. It is a state-sponsored inflation. The government is cutting, it is reducing the subsidies under the pretext that we are not having that much of money with us. So anyway, the government cannot go on like this.
We will discuss this in detail. What are the other 2 or 3 things which you think has not been addressed?
The suicide of the farmers. There is a very critical. We are in a very critical situation. Even though the president says that we have reached a stage where the output of the agriculture production has reached a record. At the same time, the maximum number of farmers are committing suicide. This happens side by side. At the same time, the maximum number of people go to their bed starved or half starved, and the maximum number of children, they are malnutrition still experience, they are starving or half starving, and these problems are not at all solved. And regarding the center state relations, what is the stand of this government, the UPA 2 government, regarding the center state relations? There are differences of opinion among the allies of the UPA 2.
Right. Okay. Let me go to Dr. Sanjay Jaiswal. Dr. Jaiswal, if you can hear me, you heard what Mr. Sampath...
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Okay, you heard what Mr. Sampath has said. Do you largely agree with him being in the opposition party, or do you have any more additional things which you think is missing in the President's speech?
See, as you said that it's a customary presidential speech, the presidential speech has really become a customary. Even the UPA 2 government doesn't take it seriously. Otherwise, the promises which were made by President at the time of 2009, like bringing black money from Switzerland outside India, or increasing the industrial output, it's just a plain whitewash. And even the government is not taking seriously what President has to speak. So I don't think so any of the relevant issues has been taken in the presidential speech.
Right.
You talk about Jan Lokpal bill, nothing happened, the discussion was there, voting didn't happen, and Ma'am President was taking credit of Jan Lokpal bill, and the same way about money laundering bill, prevention of corruption bill. It's very funny that she was talking about prevention of corruption. At the same time, Mr. Kalmadi was given a roster duty of the Congress. So even the UPA too doesn't take seriously what Ma'am President speaks at present.
Okay.
So I think so. It's just a ritual which he has said. They have listened and things end there.
Okay. Mr. Rao, you heard what Dr. Jaiswal said.
Yes.
Jaiswal of the BJP has said. Earlier, before him, Mr. Sampath of the CPM, who is in the studio with us,
Sampath.
said that the president's speech doesn't address the real issues. He gave instances like the price rise, the farmers' suicides, and also about the center-state relations. He thinks that these are issues which have not been tackled properly in the president's speech.
You want me to say?
Mr. Rao, can you hear me?
Shall I say?
Yeah, please, please.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, in fact, price rise is definitely an issue to any country.
right.
But price rise must be taken in an analytical manner. We had discussion many a time in the parliament about this.
Right.
My viewpoint in regard to the price rise of food articles is
Yes.
that the opposition party should not make havoc in the parliament about the rise in prices of food products. The reason being, how can they discuss both the things at one time? That rise in food prices should be there, and there should not be price increase. How can that be possible? And there is my viewpoint right from the beginning is the wealth is being concentrated in the urban areas.
Right.
Rural areas are getting deprived.
Right.
Because the farmer is not getting the right price for his product,
Right.
he is committing suicides. So my viewpoint is, while the manufacturer, trader is getting his investment double, triple, 10 times, 100 times, every year sometimes,
Right.
the farmer is losing his land. He has to sell his land every year.
Yes.
So we should not link up this and say that both the things should be done at one time. It is
Okay.
against nature. The moment we increase the price, I am very happy. By the by, let me tell you,
Yes.
by nature I am a critic. I always criticize even our own government policies.
Yes.
But today, I have seen in the President's speech
Yes.
that the government has realized the importance of the skill development in the people.
Right.
Unless the skills of the people is developed in this country, there is no solution, there is no way for this country to come up.
Right.
And any country, any nation, whether
Okay.
it is West Germany, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea,
Mr.
all these
Rao-
countries have
Mr.
come
Rao
up only
will-
because
will-
of skill development.
Mr. Rao will come to these issues a little later. Let me get back to Mr. Sampath. Mr. Sampath, Mr. Rao has a very valid point. He says that you talk of price rise, but at the same time you talk of increasing the support price for farmers and things like that. He says that both the things cannot happen at the same time.
It is a primary duty of a government to feed the people. Because if you have a right to tax, you have a duty to feed.
Right.
In our country, more than 50% of the people do not get their food articles at a fair price.
Right.
Our wages do not go up. You see, there has been, I would like to invite your attention to the 28th of February this year.
Yes.
Since the independence, this is the first time all the major national trade unions together,
Right.
and almost all the state level trade unions together, cutting across their political allegiance,
Right.
they formed just like
They came together and
they
had
came together.
Yes.
Their demand was fair price to the farmers, pension to all, protection for the public sector undertakings,
Right.
and you have to curb the inflation and
Curbing-
stop privatization.
We will talk about curbing inflation. See, I think in the last year's address also, the major focus of the president's address when she began was on inflation. But this year, the focus continues to be, she spoke of inflation, but not in the beginning, she came later. Let me come to Dr. Jaiswal. Dr. Jaiswal, the issue of inflation and price rise. You know, the prices have been controlled to a great extent compared to, say, about 6 months back. And even inflation figures are much more under control than what it used to be about 6-7 months back. So, you know, to go on harping about something which has already been under control, don't you think it's unfair on the government?
See, the first thing is that even the farmers are getting, if you talk about potato,
Right.
they are forced to sell the potato at 1 rupees per kg at the farm. But still in Delhi, you get it in 12 rupees a kg.
Right.
The same thing is happening in paddy as well, wheat, rice, everything, where the farmer is getting MSP of 10 rupees and the consumers are getting in 23 rupees. It's not related. If I would have been the happiest person of the world if the farmers would have been getting 20 rupees for their paddy and the grains will be getting in the market at 23 rupees.
Okay.
But it's not like that way.
Okay, Dr.
The
Jaiswal,
second thing which Mr. Rao was telling about skill development,
Right.
I want to stress that in India only 17% of the engineers are employed, and this is the data of this UPA 2 government. It is not my data.
So,
and 83% of engineers which have been developed, they
Dr.
are
Jaiswal,
unemployed. The government has not talked a single word
Dr.
about
Jaiswal will come
employment.
back
You are
to you.
talking about skill development, but skill
Right.
development should
Dr. Jaiswal will come back to you. You made a very significant point there. Let me come to Smita. Smita, there is this feeling, price rise and issues like price rise is something which will come up every time. And you have seen in the last, I think in the last 1 year, in the last 3 sessions in Parliament, in every session there has been a discussion on price rise. This is a pet topic of the people in the opposition, even when prices come down. So you think that this, instead of focusing on these pet issues, they should look at other issues, other things, positive things which is there in the president's speech?
Well, you know,
Or do you see any positive
no,
things?
Well, I want to make 2 points. One is that I do agree that price rise is a key issue for people.
And you think that
and
the recent elections also proves that?
Well, it was an issue in UP. Mehengai was a big issue. And the problem was that it got coupled with the corruption issue.
Yes.
And if you look at the president's speech, the fact that all the anti-graft measures that the government has taken
No, not
are
just
high
taken,
up,
she starts her speech talking about this.
are high up. It is indicative of 2 things. One, of government's intention, and 2, that the government is really concerned, worried, because I think they are taking a beating really on the corruption issue.
Absolutely.
For instance, apart from these assembly elections, if you take the corporation elections in Maharashtra, I'm told that after the defeat in Mumbai Corporation, the Congress did a post-poll survey and discovered corruption was
a major issue.
Was a major issue.
Okay.
So I think that is why the government is so concerned. A, intention, and B,
And also black money.
and black money.
And
all
black
the,
money
all the
also
related
comes
issues,
very high on the priority of this
Yeah.
of this speech of the president. We will continue this discussion. We need to go into a small break now. Please keep watching. We'll be back very soon. Welcome back. We are discussing the president's speech and looking at what it has to offer. Let me go to Mr. Rao. Mr. Rao, you have defended your position pretty well. A critic always, but for once you seem to be finding some good things in this president's speech. What are the other good things which you find in this?
Right from the beginning, I am of the opinion the policy on which the prices of the industrial goods are being decided is totally different from the policy of fixing the prices for agricultural products.
Right.
So that means a lot of injustice is being done to the farming community and the rural community in evaluating their sweat.
Right.
So my point here is,
Yes.
unless there is a transfer of money from urban areas to the rural areas,
Yes.
from the industrialists to the rural community, there will not be a salvation of this the suicides
Do
from
you
the farmers' side.
Do you see
The
that?
good things what I have observed today is,
No, do you see that
yes,
this
yes,
point
the
being
two
addressed
good
in
things that I observed.
Yes. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, 4,75,000 crores is being given to the farmers, and I am sure this time it will be increased by another 1 lakh crores at least, and the interest rates are reduced from 7% to 4%, and the state government will take the responsibility. It can be 0% also to all the farmers.
Right.
My opinion from the beginning is, the farmer must be given the loans at 0 interest and
Right.
no interest at all from them, because they can't take the burden. While they are not getting the right price, if they are open, then it is a different matter. We fix up the price and they don't get the right price.
Mr.
So,
Mr.
loans
Rao,
they are giving,
Mr. Rao,
skills development they are giving,
Yes.
healthcare, yes.
Mr. Rao.
What is a poor man requires? Yes, please.
Yeah, please
Yes.
continue.
Yes.
Please continue.
What does a poor man require? A poor man requires at a affordable price, food grains, at a affordable price, education, health care, these things, and housing.
Okay.
Now, if these things are there, then for him, whether to come up or not to come up depends upon his hard work, his effort, his education.
Absolutely.
So,
all these
here
things,
the government has taken care of
addressing all these issues, you
yes,
think?
in
Okay.
increasing the provision.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, in increasing the provision for health care, they want to increase it to 2.5%
Absolutely.
from 1%. That is a good thing.
Mr. Rao,
Yeah.
Rao, please stay on. Let me go to Dr. Jaiswal. Dr. Jaiswal, you are a medical doctor.
Yeah.
You have I think your parents also were doctors. You know, Mr. Rao is talking about increasing the allocations to the health sector. Do you think that what has been announced today is adequate?
See, that's why I called it a customary presidential speech, because it was decided long back that we will bring GDP for the total investment for the health sector for the GDP 2.5% in 2010.
Yes.
And now it's again in the 2 years after, we are talking that in future we will be bringing our health sector GDP for utilization to 2.5%.
Yeah.
And my learned is very senior member of parliament, but he is forgetting in the rural areas, the farmers' MSP has not been increased a single rupees in 2 years, whereas the fertilizer prices have been doubled, and not only doubled, it has been tripled. Many fertilizers are nitrogen related fertilizer are coming in 930 rupees instead of 300
Dr.
rupees.
Jaiswal,
The
Dr.
urea
Jaiswal,
has gone from 280 rupees to
Dr.
500
Jaiswal,
rupees
let us talk of
just in last 6 months.
Dr.
And
Jaiswal,
MSP hasn't been increased even a single rupee.
Dr. Jaiswal,
So, we have
Yes.
to see that we
Yes,
have
Mr.
promised
Rao.
that
I agree
we
with
will,
Mr. Jaiswal.
we'll
Mr.
be
Jaiswal,
giving
Dr.
direct
Jaiswal,
subsidy to the farmers.
Dr. Jaiswal, let
But
me
we haven't
get
increased a
let me
single
get
rupee
Mr.
in
Rao.
MSP.
Let me get Mr. Rao on this. Mr. Rao, you heard the MSPs have not
Yeah,
grown
please.
last 2
I am
years.
of the opinion.
He is
I am
so
of the
experienced
opinion
person, we want to
the
learn from
MSP
his
has to be
experience.
increased further for the food grains. But the Congress government has increased the prices substantially, almost more than 3 times or more than 2 times in the last 5-6 years from
Yes.
2004.
So it has been
It
2
is not
years
that
back
they have
when
not
you have increased.
But it
But
has
in
to be
last
increased
6 months you
further.
have increased the fertilizer
Even last
prices
year also it
twice.
has
Okay.
increased.
And in fact, more
Even
than
last
2
year
times
also
in
it
last
increased.
6 months.
Okay, Mr.
And you haven't increased
Okay,
the
let me
since
get
last 2 years.
Mr. Rao, let me get Mr. Sampath in on this.
Yeah.
Mr. Sampath, let's shift from, we have had enough discussion on the
Inflation,
agriculture sector.
Yes, price
Incidentally, 6.6% growth, which is quite phenomenal to say in a year. We are not seeing this kind of agricultural growth for many, many decades. But coming to other things, see, skill development. This speech has a framework. It talks of the 5 important challenges which the country faces: livelihood security, economic security, energy security, ecological and environmental security, and internal and external security. So the government seems to know exactly what its problems are. Don't you think so?
I don't think so. Because you see, they are still trying for the privatization of the Indian economy
Yes,
under the pretext of PPP models.
yes. The PPP model is a very important aspect of
It
this.
is a pretext. It is a pretext for privatization. Many countries which have opted for the privatization as part of their liberalization and globalization path, they have turned back. We have many examples, including the example of Iceland and many countries.
This speech talks about increasing the public-private partnership, increasing investments, private investments into infrastructure sector. So you think it is not
Private investment will come. Unless and until there is profit, it won't come. Here you see, in the last budget alone, the revenue foregone, it comes to the tune of more than 5 lakh crores of rupees.
about 3.5 lakh crores, I think.
For whom it was? Corporate income tax, exempted. Excise duty, exempted. Import duty, exempted. Cess, exempted. What exemption did the government give for the farmers or for the poor people?
No, but
it was for the
No,
corporate
you have a
houses.
very valid point, but this is something which we'll wait for the budget to come to see if there is any decrease in this revenue foregone thing. We'll discuss that later.
And regarding the health and the education also.
Yes.
In this, in this address, there is mentioning about the PPP also. What is the quantum of the investment by the government of India? And now the government of India, it is going for more and more centrally sponsored schemes.
The speech clearly makes out that, and very proudly, that the private sector investment in infrastructure has gone up to 30%. So they're quite, it's not something which they are trying to. In fact, Smita, this private-public partnership, is this something which is becoming a political issue? Do you see this happening as a political issue, or you think most of the governments, state governments at least, are happy with this pattern?
One thing I can tell you, and that is that the Assam government, the Department of the Northeast region, they are not happy. Donor is not happy with the PPP model. And in fact, I remember they even said that it is a model that has not worked for us in the Northeast.
Okay.
So it's not just the opposition parties that are talking about it. It's a pet of Dr. Bontek Singh Ahluwalia and the Planning Commission.
Yeah. Okay. We are running short of time. Mr. Rao, last words to you. This infrastructure increase in investments of private investments in infrastructure is a tricky issue, and this private-public partnership is also a tricky issue. You think there is something which the government should continue to pursue?
I have been suggesting to the government since 20 years.
Yes.
That constantly they are giving a reply, it is a short of funds.
Yes.
So what I was telling is you must see BOT or BOO or private investment must be there in these infrastructure, so that we will have the basic things which can be enjoyed by the poor man without paying anything.
Yes.
If somebody pays toll, it is only some transporter or somebody else which will not directly go to the poor man.
Yes.
So while he enjoys everything, what is the villager? Villager will not have a car, villager will not have a scooter, villager will not have anything to pay.
I think
even tractors is permitted. So my point here is, now today I am happy the government of India has agreed to tap the provident fund and insurance funds for infrastructure, which they are not permitted earlier.
Okay.
Now funds will be available for the infrastructure.
Mr. Rao,
we can develop our roads,
okay,
our ports, our airports, everything.
Mr. Rao, we are completely run out of time. But anyway, thank you very much. I think you, as a Congress MP, you have put forth your points very, very frankly, and it's apparent that this private-public partnership is something which you are not too comfortable about. Dr. Jaiswal, last word to you. You just have 30 seconds. Please tell me how the BJP will be reacting to this speech. Yes.
BJP.
I think so. The government is grossly confused. Their vision.
Yes. Please finish. Please finish.
I don't think so. We should take the presidency speech seriously, because whatever
we are completely.
speaks, It is never followed.
Dr. Jaiswal,
another thing is that
we are completely run out of time. But anyway, thanks for joining. It's evident that the president's speech is going to be debated in the parliament in the coming week. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of criticism about this, from what our guests today have spoken from the opposition parties. In fact, Mr. K.S.Rao, a ruling party member, also has certain reservations about it, but let's see. But this president's speech obviously has many other positives also, which in a half-an-hour program is impossible to list out. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all my guests, Mr. K.S.Rao, Dr. Sanjay Jaiswal, Mr. Sampath and Smita Gupta. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture. Please keep watching.